Hi guys, my name is Nick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. Hit the subscribe button and let's all be Randomfishes together. So, this is a film. The film I want to talk about today, I'm not really talking so much about the film as I'm talking about its impact. And it's something that I've honestly been thinking about quite a lot lately. No thanks in part to a documentary that I've been watching over and over again on DVD until I just basically wore the discs out from watching it too many times, and now I'm watching it again and again on Netflix instead. But that's neither here nor there at this point. This is what I want to talk about. In 1979, Monty Python released their second feature film, Life of Brian. This movie was intended for a large audience. It was set in biblical times, and it was around a guy called Brian who lived around the same time as Christ. Hell, was born in the same area as Christ, but obviously wasn't Christ. Got talked about, had all these things happen to him, despite him basically wanting to live a low-key life, I guess is the best way of putting it. But unfortunately, obviously, life had other plans for him and made things worse, not better. With that being said, however, how do I put this? Life of Brian is a genius film, and I love it in all its permutations. I love it in everything that it does. Despite never having had to learn Latin in my life in a British schoolroom, I find that whole scene where he's writing Romans go home on the wall in Latin and being reminded of sort of the conjugating of the verb to go and all this sort of thing, and the plural of Romanus is Romani, and all this beautiful, wonderful stuff that sort of happens. I love this film, but I cannot deny what happened when it was released. Again, I was not born at this time. I have no personal frame of reference, but I can tell you a little bit about what happened. When this film was first released, there was outcry from various people across various setups. Various religious people called the film blasphemous. There was a guy in America who, I think was a congressman, who abused his authority to get it pulled out of a cinema because he didn't like its content, or his wife didn't like its content or something, and everyone in the town sort of got up in arms about it, not knowing the film at all, or not really having seen the film at all. They said, they'll go, you can't censor something that's bad. I think there was a beautiful line in the documentary, actually, when they were talking about this, to go, it's censorship and that's bad news. This is America. That's not supposed to happen here. And all I can do when that happens is I sit back and just think, oh my God, the way you could have used that law right now in this time period, dear Lord. But speaking of this, the controversy surrounding this film when it was released was insane. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Because I want to sit here and seriously ask you the following question. What the hell? Why? Why was there controversy surrounding this film at all? I don't get it. I've never gotten it, to be honest with you. I've never gotten this bizarre belief held by certain people at certain times that films that are comedic that also have a biblical take are bad. I'll be honest, I think Life of Brian is the only biblical comedy film that I'm aware of. If there are others, please, God, let me know. Because I really want to watch them to see just how bad they are if they were before Life of Brian, so I can fully understand where this came from. If they're American, then that's fine. America has its own problems, its own thought processes, its own type of people. I'm talking specifically to British people. Because A, Python came mostly from America. Sorry, Terry Gilliam, but still. He was American first. A, Monty Python are British. B, one of the worst things that could have possibly happened after this film got brought out happened. Now, I don't know if I should be calling it the worst thing, but it felt pretty bad from when I was watching stuff about it, and I watched it on YouTube a few times myself. There was a debate on television, apparently actually broadcasted on TV, with two guys from the church. One of them, Muggeridge, I think one of their names is, and I don't remember idiots' names. I really don't, especially those idiots. But one of these idiots was a bishop, and the other idiot was just some dude in a suit with, they both had whiter hair than most. Let me put it that way, whiter hair than most. That's the best way of putting it, I think. And defending the film was John Cleese and Michael Palin. And it was an insane debate. It was an insane thing to have on TV. It shouldn't have existed. I don't think it needed to exist. I don't think that it should have happened. I don't think these two guys should have been the people to go up there and do this. The big question, of course, I'm sure a lot of you are now asking is, well, why the hell do you care? Why are you getting so upset about this? It's because I'm Christian. And I enjoyed this film. And I still enjoy it today. I remember when my brother gave me these DVDs for Christmas one year. He gave me a complete set of Monty Python films. Holy Grail, Life of Brian, Now Something Completely Different, and Meaning of Life. And that's where this is why I honestly feel slightly more peeved. Because a true Christian can watch that film and not get offended. Or even worse, not even care about, even if it was slightly offensive, it's still funny enough to cancel out the offensive. And I know there's plenty of people out there that say, well, you offended our religion and it's not great. You think you were born in comedy? I was born in it. Molded by it. I do apologize, my old man voice sounds suspiciously like Bane, apparently. But this is where it comes from, and this is where the problem of the film, I feel, lies. The problem with the film is that it was, I don't want to say because it was made, because of all the problems that now spring up, it's because it was made, because that's wrong. The reason, the one fault I can find in this film is that it was made at a time when people were going to attack it more than to defend it. And it was going to be at a stage where you could have had that on TV, involving two of the members of Monty Python defending their film against these two people with absolutely no problem whatsoever. And I honestly feel like if this film had been released today, or if it had been made in this sort of era, well, two things. Number one, it would have been it wouldn't have been a very well watched film, I wouldn't have thought. But it would have gained a massive cult following upon it, like it's released to DVD or something. But the other thing is that you would have YouTube as a platform, which is where I'm talking. I'm talking on YouTube about this. And honestly, if this film had been released around now, there would be YouTubers like myself, like many others out there who are more talented than I, who would stand there and defend Life of Brian. And there would be those who would bring up videos saying, it's awful, it's blasphemous, oh no. But you would have more audience members saying how great it was or how much they enjoyed it in some way, shape or form. And it would be this wonderful thing. But at the same time, even my rebuttal has some points and has some problems with it. Because I know for a fact that if there were people who had watched this film when it first came out, there are these people that I like to refer to as arrogant atheists. Now, I have nothing against people who don't believe in anything. As far as I'm concerned, each to their own. It's your thing. This is my thing. Let's not fight each other. That's with that out of the way. The problem with a film like Life of Brian being released now is that there are people out there, celebrities out there, normal people, people who, you know, who aren't so normal, and, you know, just people with very loud and open mouths who would very much praise this film for destroying what's called the illusion of faith. And that just wouldn't have happened back in 79. I understand that in 79 there was this great, well, I say in 79, from the 60s or possibly the mid-50s onwards, there was this gigantic surge of comedy in Britain that sort of went, we can make fun of the establishment, we can make fun about the Queen or the Pope or whatever. You know, it's amazing, it's wonderful. And these things sort of happened and they carried on over the course of time and everything else, and that's fine. But obviously in 79, at that point in time, there were less people running around saying believing in things is dumb. There were people who still did it, but there were less of them than it was people going, it's just, you know, people believe in things, fine, go ahead, just don't shoot me about it. You know, that's just how it was. And it's how a lot of people, I think, are being failed to raise as. I think the idea of having a faith or believing in a religion is something that is a case of respect, and it's a case of giving over respect. And unfortunately, in 79, there was this great surge of people who felt that because they did have religion, they were allowed to speak about it in much louder tones than anybody else. Nowadays, it's the opposite that's true. I find there are more people out there boldly speaking against religion than there are people talking about religion. Now, I'm not saying that there has to be a war. I'm not saying that there has to be this whole back and forth. I believe in something, you don't. Well, you're stupid. Well, you're stupid. I don't want that. What I'm talking about is the balance that this film achieved. And that's why I wanted to talk about this film. I wanted to talk about the controversy surrounding it, but also figuring out why the controversy existed. When Life of Brian was released, there were two scenes. Two. Featuring Christ. The first one was, of course, the birth scene where the three wise men go off and they end up running into Brian's mother, expertly played by Terry Jones, and they give him the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. They leave, and then they come back, take the stuff, and go away again, and it's discovered that they weren't actually going to Brian's manger, they were going to the manger of Jesus, with Mary and Joseph. We then cut to, sometime later after the credits sequence, we then cut to, at that point in time, the Sermon on the Mount. And Jesus, the guy, an actor who's actually playing Jesus, is giving the Sermon on the Mount as written in the Bible. There's nothing much in there. The excerpt that he reads as the camera starts pulling back, I've read it in the Bible. It's the exact. It's perfect. It's exactly where it needs to be, and it's a perfect reading of that sermon. It's a perfect reading of the whole thing. The camera then pans back, and we get to the comedy, of course, where we get to someone yelling "Speak up" at the very back of the crowd because they cannot hear him. Which then leads us into the main story, featuring, of course, Brian and the other characters that we would eventually meet along the way. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because the idea of faith, of believing in somebody like Jesus or God or Hinduism or Buddhism or even being an atheist by that same standard as a way. Everyone has a belief in something. You have a belief in certain things. For people like myself, Christians, we believe in Jesus, we believe in God, all that stuff. And the film does not turn Jesus into a figure of ridicule. It does not attempt to show him in a comedic light. It does not attempt to diminish our faith in any way by saying you're stupid because you believe in this. But it treats him respectfully, and it then leaves him alone. Lets him do his thing, and they go to their other story. And that's fine. But this is where the lump of it comes from. Because having faith and religious dogma or organized religion is what they are attacking. And this is where I truly find the film to be genius. And also why I still to this day will enjoy getting into arguments with people about this. And it's kind of why I'm doing this video actually in a slightly dark way. I want people to come at me with comments, I really do. I actually am kind of disturbingly wanting this right now. But the film attacks the organization of religion. It attacks revolutionary groups. It attacks also this very big thing going on at the time in Palestine, where everyone was trying to find the next Messiah. They wanted to find the new Messiah. And there were all these people, these false people that were walking around saying all these things and blah, 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 saying that they were going to be the one to lead these people into the promised land, to lead them to glory, to lead them back to God. And that's what's being made fun of here. The attitude, this incredibly dense, dull as hell attitude of people attempting, more often than not, to create a false ideology of themselves, or create a fake idol of themselves. And we see this in the three of them, in the three characters that we see, where we see these characters go from, I think one of them is a guy who looks like the first Slayer from Buffy and the Vampire Slayer, actually, dancing on this wooden box, sort of like, talking about a great rubbing of parts. Then we cut to another guy who's slightly more respectful, respectfully dressed, I should say, saying, he'll come down and smite all the sinners just like you, sir, that's it, And then it pans over to the next guy who's just ridiculous. It's, I can't remember exactly who it is playing him, I think it might be Michael Palin, but he does this line of saying something like, and there will be at that time, this thing of things going astray. And nobody will know where they really, and there will be great confusion as to where things really are, and no one will know where lieth those little things. And then it pans away again. And yes, just yes, that's funny. That's the bit that I'm failing to understand why people don't see that funny. I'm failing to understand why there are many Christians out there still today who still don't like this movie, because they sit there and call it blasphemous. If you don't find the film funny, you don't find it funny, like as a comedy fan, fine. I can't argue that point, because comedy is a subjective thing. It has everything to do with you as a person, or a group, or a society, or a community, or whatever. These things are funny to people. The idea of it being that everything that offends someone about a film like this is all rooted in the idea of it's blasphemous, complete hogswallop. Complete hogwash. Not a thing. Just not. Not because I'm arrogant enough to assume that I think I know what's best for you. It's just, I don't think that it should be considered blasphemous because this film is attacking something that is taking advantage of faith, not actual faith itself. And that's where I find a lot of people are getting confused. If you base who you are not on your faith, but on the religion you practice, then that's wrong. The idea of finding God or finding whatever it is you want to find is your personal journey. And to subject yourself to a religion simply because they say it's the right choice, or you believe for a moment that it is, and you're basing your life off of what the religion teaches you as opposed to what God teaches you, that's where you fall flat. And honestly, anyone who lives their life like that through that form of religion or through, Catholic dogma is stupid. Just stupid. End of the day for me. Always will be. But this is where I'm sort of coming from. I love this film. And I love that its comedy is so well done and it's so brilliantly done. And I don't know if it's been done again. I don't think it could ever be done again. Because we live in a world now where everything's so much worse than it was. I personally would like to reach out my hands to anyone out there who likes Life of Brian, but more specifically, anyone who likes Life of Brian who is a Christian, like me, or religious in any way, shape or form, and you love this film, not because, because you realise that it doesn't attack your faith, it attacks the thing that sometimes exploits your faith, or at least exploited faith at that time. Yes, we go through this thing where we don't always know what God means. But in your heart of hearts, if you truly are a believer of God, then you completely and utterly need to be able to look at this film and realise from the bottom of your heart that this film is not blasphemous. It is not attacking God. It does not attack Christ. It does not attack faith. It attacks the morons that attempt to use faith to get what they want. And those people that hear things wrong or hear things secondhand and come up with their own conclusions, and that's where it all comes from. Honestly, that's the real tragedy here. And that's the painful thing. But hey, if you're inspired from watching this video to go and watch Life of Brian again, please do. You can either get it on DVD, obviously, or you can stream it on Netflix, last I saw. I don't know about any of the other streaming services, but I'm fairly sure you can get a hold of that. Or if you just have a hard copy, stick in Life of Brian and have a watch. Or indeed, watch any Monty Python film. Because they're all good. And they all have good ideas. So with that being said, I'd like to end with a very specific announcement. There are sheep all over this great country of ours who are attempting to fly like birds. Observe as they hop about on their hind legs. Now, observe them try to fly from tree to tree. Notice they do not so much fly as plummet. This has been the sheep, not birds announcement. With that being said, llamas. Randomfish out.